So we're heading in to the Red Pyramid here at Dahshur. So we're heading down into the pyramid proper. So here we are, we're in the first chamber of the Red Pyramid.
The Egyptian pyramids were designed to produce chemicals on an industrial scale because these chambers are chemical reaction chambers.
Just some of the stones in here are just so beautifully created. Hey Megalithomaniacs, check this out. This is the Red Pyramid here at Dahshur in Egypt. Now it appears red because it is covered in red limestone, but originally it had white casing stones all the way over it, which got removed and half of Cairo was built from it. What's interesting as well is the angle is 43 degrees. It's not the classic 51, 52 degrees of the Great Pyramid, so it appears quite squat. Inside there's 3 chambers. There's 2 kind of standard chambers, then there's a corbelled roof chamber slightly higher up. We're going to go inside and take a look, and it really smells of ammonia. And there may be a reason for this, which we'll talk about soon. And this is one of 3 pyramids dedicated to Sneferu from 2500 to 2600 BC. So let's have a little look around it. There's also the pyramidion, which was found in the rubble, which had been placed around the other side near the mortuary temple. And there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. So let's get in and have a look. So we're heading in to the Red Pyramid here at Dahshur in November 2024. Haven't been in there for years, so I want to check this out again because there's some interesting features that people have pointed out over the years, which I want to take a look at. So here we have just some of the cornerstones. Now, these would have been on the interior, so they kind of look rough-hewn, but these are massive, just incredible. Just one corner of the so-called Red Pyramid of Sneferu. So this is technically the 3rd largest pyramid here in Egypt, next to Khafre's pyramid and also the Great Pyramid, obviously. This is the 3rd largest. It's bigger than the Bent Pyramid apparently, although it seems to look bigger to me. But yeah, let's check this out. You've got to climb up here and then you go in and then go down and you go across through 2 chambers and up to the 3rd chamber. So we're heading down into the pyramid proper. It's extremely shallow, 3 foot by 4 foot corridor. So here we are, we're in the first chamber of the Red Pyramid. So here we are inside one of the chambers in the Red Pyramid of Dahshur, and you can see the corbelled ceiling, the beautiful, precisely placed and cut megalithic blocks, with another avenue behind me here, which goes through to more chambers, 2 more chambers. And this is incredible. I mean, what is this all about? And the smell of ammonia has kind of gone from it a little bit, but it really did smell of ammonia a few years ago when I was here last time. Look at this block here. There's a huge block, and just put it in perspective, Hugh Evans standing there, his head is where the actual kind of end of it is, and then it goes all the way across here. Just some of the stones in here are just so beautifully created. This one here, this giant one above the doorwell, is remarkable. That is exactly like you find in the Great Pyramid, just above the door there as well. You can see under here just how deep it might go. Yeah, and it goes like about 4 feet back as well. Incredible. Amazing corbelled roof going all the way up there. That is really something. We just turn around, have a look at the roof. That is quite something.
And I remember my first time going in the Red Pyramid was really the impetus of my entire hypothesis that the Egyptian pyramids were designed to produce chemicals on an industrial scale, because these chambers are chemical reaction chambers. They have all the designs of manipulation of physics to create and facilitate chemical reactions, specifically the tiered vault of the chamber itself. And I knew that the staining was indicative of the chemical reactions that were occurring inside of these chambers, because the staining gets darker and darker the further you go into the structure, where it accumulates most in the upper vault of the second chamber before the reactant gases are moved into the final synthesis chamber, which is where the smell of ammonia is most pronounced in that final chamber. That smell is coming from the final chamber because that was the final synthesis chamber where the actual ammonia solution was being produced.
Let's get in, take a look further. This is incredible. Precision here is just something else. Again, we have another giant block above the stairs, above the entrance here, just like we find in the Great Pyramid and in the previous chamber.
So incredible about these cut and polished blocks here, you know, within the opening chamber of the Red Pyramid, is just how fine the line is between each one. It's just like on the casing stones of the Great Pyramid. You know, and I doubt whether you'd be able to get many coins between these. And since the Red Pyramid was supposed to have been built just before the Great Pyramid, I find that possible. And if you look up here, you can also see that the visitors of this place have been leaving their mark here for hundreds of years. I mean, this one is sometime in the 18 something or others, I can't see exactly. And what we know is that this has been open for a long time, and if you look inside the main sarcophagus chamber, it's a mess because people have been trying to treasure hunt there and ruin the floor and all of the blocks. So it's completely unlike this chamber, but it's so incredible. Plus you've got this corbelling here. And this is also a style which we find in the Giza pyramids, particularly the Great Pyramid in the Grand Gallery, for instance. So it's almost like the Red Pyramid of Dahshur is a prototype of the Great Pyramid itself.
So we're going to head up the stairs and we're going to go to the final chamber, which is one I really want to look at. But as we go up, we can see some of the corbelling of the roof. So we just climbed the stairs and look, you can see we're really close to this kind of corbelled roof, just like we find in the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid. This is quite spectacular craftsmanship, almost sort of bizarre factory-like look. You can see there's graffiti on top of the kind of corridor, but look at this, look at the way, it's hard to see because of the sort of artificial lights they put in here. But look, you can see this is the kind of cornering as you go in. You've got like a inverted nub there where maybe a pole went across. But look how rough-hewn the one on the bottom is compared to the others. It's almost like this all the way along. Actually, this was a smaller passage like we climbed down already, because the bottom one's rough, so that was clearly stones going all the way across here. So the passage was only that high. It was like from there, you know, from about here upwards, so you would have climbed through. Very awkward passage. But the stonework in here is pretty amazing. So going into the final chamber now. This is really interesting, this one. There's something I want to show you regarding the floor. Wow, this is amazing. But it's this floor which really gives you a clue as to what was really going on here. And here we have the main chamber. And look at the floor here that's been removed. Underneath it, we have many of the giant blocks that make up the chamber itself. So this is the final higher chamber of the 3 chambers here in the Red Pyramid here at Dahshur. The other 2 are lower, they're kind of a little bit smaller, but the ammonia smell has kind of gone, they've kind of cleared out. So there were bats in here, so people claimed there were bat droppings which created this ammonia smell. It's actually known as the Bat Pyramid to the local people here. But also there's a theory by Geoffrey Drumm, who does the Land of Chem YouTube and project, and he's come up with a remarkable theory that all the pyramids were actually creating different chemicals and gases and things like this. And this one in particular was creating ammonia. Hence the kind of almost factory-like setting. It really doesn't feel like a temple or a shrine or a tomb.
So the first step in the process is filling the lower 2 chambers with water above the level of the connecting passage. So between the first 2 chambers, you have a connecting passage in the middle. And if you fill that connecting passage with water, it will fill both chambers to the same level. And what this does is create an isolated reaction space inside each one of the reactors, because you're essentially sealing it off where no air or anything can go inside the chamber. And you may have noticed that inside of the primary chamber, the first chamber, there is a hole in the western wall that has been filled in with concrete. And there's a bunch of staining right above this hole. So clearly there was something flowing up out of the hole into the upper space of the reaction vault. And I propose that this is methane gas, which is the initial reactant in our modern day Haber process for the manufacture of aqueous. We actually make liquid ammonia today. My hypothesis is that the Red Pyramid produced an aqueous solution of ammonia, which is ammonia gas dissolved in water, a little bit different than liquid ammonia, which is ammonia gas supercooled into a liquid form. So it's a little bit different in terms of the final product, same chemical composition. So the first stage is filling that first chamber with water and isolating the reaction space, introducing methane gas. As you raise the water level in the chamber, it will compress the methane gas, which is water insoluble, which means that it won't dissolve in the water. So the water essentially acts like a plunger, pushing the gas into the upper vault of the chamber. And you'll notice that the chamber is tiered. So you have reduced volume the higher you go in the chamber. So as you're pressing that gas into the upper vault of the chamber, you are decreasing the volume and increasing the pressure, which is a great way to facilitate chemical reactions, is by increasing temperature and pressure. So these are the basic physics 101 mechanisms of operation that are involved in the operation of the Red Pyramid. It also involves oriented external electric fields, which is where things get a little bit more complicated when we talk about the power source of the Egyptian pyramids, which is lightning, which provides the heat source for the chemical reactions. So essentially in the first chamber, it's a steam reformer where steam and methane react to produce hydrogen and carbon monoxide. Then you lower the water in that chamber. And as soon as there's an aperture or an opening in between chamber 1 and chamber 2, these high temperature, high pressure gases will flow through the connecting shaft into the second chamber. And there's actually tons of staining on the southern wall of the first chamber that shows that flow pattern moving from the upper vault through the connecting passage into the second chamber. The process is then repeated in the second chamber where the water level is raised, and the hydrogen and carbon monoxide from the first stage react with nitrogen and oxygen from the air to produce hydrogen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is soluble in water and will dissolve into the water in the chamber, which is drained away, leaving the 2 primary reactant gases of hydrogen and nitrogen. Those hydrogen and nitrogen gases are then pushed through the connecting shaft from the upper vault of the second chamber into the final synthesis chamber. Your northern shaft is then activated, pushing the water all the way up in the final synthesis chamber, where those hydrogen and nitrogen gases react to produce gaseous ammonia. And gaseous ammonia is highly soluble in water, So that gaseous ammonia will dissolve into the water in the chamber, hence the intense smell of ammonia in the final synthesis chamber. And then that aqueous ammonia solution is drained out of the pit that now exists inside of the final synthesis chamber. And I have a speculation that, so there's a lot of work that went into hauling all those stones out and digging that pit inside of that chamber. So there had to be something in that chamber that gave them the idea, okay, let's excavate into this chamber and pull out all these stones. So I propose that that is the outlet shaft that gave them the inspiration to start digging in that final synthesis chamber where they removed all of those stones out.
We found staining, that this staining is all over the surface in the inside. For the longest time, we believed that it was the staining from the bats that lived in the inside, until a Russian team from an organization called the Asida Project, they took samples. I believe it was illegally taken, but they did a microscopic analysis. So these samples were something really tiny. His name is Geoffrey Drumm. He's also interested in chemistry and the pyramid. He's studying the pyramids from the point of view of chemistry. And he used the analysis of the Asida project to talk about what kind of materials they found when they were analyzing this. So it will be normal if you find some material, organic materials from the staining of bats, because it is there, and also from the quality of the stone. But then they found, the Asida project found other elements like iridium and uranium and many, it's a big list. And they have it all listed if you are interested to know, and it's a mystery still.
But the other thing of interest here, which really gets me, is the whole floor, they say, has been removed. And actually the floor would have been here. It would have been the height of this banister here, because you can see the rough-hewn stones have been damaged. It would be much harder to get to, because obviously they've exploded it to move it out of the way. But this floor has also been removed. I don't know where all the stones have gone or how they got out. But you can see underneath, John Anthony West suggests that these are heavily weathered. So this was actually exposed, and there was some kind of megalithic mound structure here before the pyramid was built. And so that's one of the theories put forward, that there was something else here. And it could be the case with many of the other pyramids as well, because we know there was a stone mound underneath the Great Pyramid, like the Mound of Creation. If you look here, you can see the potential weathering on the stones. But some of the stones are just so precisely cut. It's just like in the Great Pyramid. You can see the precision here. There's no gaps between them whatsoever. I find it fascinating that this was supposedly third pyramid of Sneferu. And it really makes you question what was really going on here, and the location of them, the kind of apparently random location. But it does make sense. I think Geoffrey might be onto something here, because it just gives a kind of rational explanation. And the fact that chemistry was no doubt, and alchemy as well, was no doubt a big part of the society of ancient Egypt. Even in here, you can just see the stonework is remarkable. It's very hot in here, by the way, if you do come in here. And precisely cut, but it's still a little bit rough. It's not like perfectly smooth. It's not like kind of granite smooth like we find in southern Egypt. But it is still pretty amazing when you kind of consider. And all the way along here, we have this going back out into the passage. We have the same kind of quality of stonework throughout the pyramid. So what is it? It's very abstract, like having these three chambers with these beautiful corbelled roofs, and yet no real explanation about what they were really for. Were they really tombs? Because in here there was supposed to be a burial, there's supposed to be a sarcophagus, but obviously it's all gone, it's all completely vanished, and there's nothing left here. We're about to leave the main chamber of the Red Pyramid here, but here you can see behind me the rubble and the kind of potential evidence that this was once on the surface. Now we're going to walk back down the passage. I'm going to show you that you can actually walk through it virtually head height, whereas the other ones coming in here you can't really. You have to kind of almost crawl through or crouch quite dramatically. But that's because a layer has been blown away from this particular spot. And now we come back out, if I just turn the camera around, into the main, the second chamber here. It's very dusty in here, so it's looking a bit hazy on the camera, so I do apologize. There's nothing we can do about that. And these are the steps you have to climb down. These stones look almost polished. And is this chemical residue? It's something that Geoffrey Drumm was saying, that there's actually evidence of chemical residue in some. Actually, we might be able to see some here as well. If you look over there, what is that? What is all this kind of liquid on here? Some kind of blackness. So is this evidence of chemical residue, or is this just something else like moisture and condensation over time?
So the primary application for ammonia is for fertilizers. Ammonia is one of the most important chemicals that we manufacture in our modern chemical industry, and 90% of it is used for fertilizer. It actually led to the transformation of our modern society during the Industrial Revolution. And interestingly enough, the Haber process and the original configuration for the Haber ammonia manufacturing apparatus is the exact same as the configuration of the Red Pyramid. If you look at Fritz Haber's original apparatus for ammonia production, it's 3 chambers. 2 are at a lower level, and the third one is at an upper level. So it literally exactly mimics the configuration of the Red Pyramid. In my research, I discovered that Fritz Haber, the creator of our modern ammonia manufacturing process, actually loved coming to Egypt. And he had studied Egypt and the Egyptian pyramids, and I believe that he may have stumbled across the same conclusion that I've reached, that the Red Pyramid was designed to produce this ammonia solution on an industrial scale. Thus, he created the modern Haber process for the production of ammonia. And the Haber process operates based on very similar physics and chemistry as the ancient chemical reactions inside the Red Pyramid. But today, again, we supercool the ammonia gas to produce ammonia liquid, where the ancient chemical reaction is an aqueous ammonia solution where the gas is dissolved into water, which doesn't require the supercooling of the gas, because I don't think they had the capability to supercool the gas to create the liquid ammonia, but they certainly could have dissolved the gas into water, which makes a much simpler aqueous ammonia solution, predominantly used for fertilizer.
There's some strange kind of carving, like almost like an arrow. I don't know if someone's put that on there in recent times, or if that's actually part of the design. As you look down here, you can see like the smoothness and the precision of these squared blocks. As we walk down the stairs, these are kind of just below where the corbelled roof starts in the main chamber here, the second chamber. So we're just come down from the top chamber. We're now back in the middle chamber. There's no one in here. You can hear the voice echoing, but not too much. So I don't know if this was acoustic. It could well be. The design suggests it has acoustic qualities. But let's go back out now. Let's take a walk out. We'll show you the full route coming into the 3 chambers and back out again. And we'll have a look around the side and at the pyramidion as well. So we're going back out from the second, or the first chamber rather, all the way up now. Now we have to climb up there. So this is not going to be fun, but it has to be done.
As you can see, what's remaining of the casing stone here survived under the rubble. So it was covered. Otherwise, it was going to be dismantled and taken away. And you could see that they took it from the top to the bottom. And when they were doing that, breaking these little pieces, breaking the stones into little pieces, and rolling it down, and also causing all this rubble from the shattered pieces of the bigger rocks. And most of the rams that they found here were not actually to bring the stone and build it, it was to take the stone away. This is one of the pieces that it forms the capstone of the pyramid. It was found in smaller pieces. The archaeologists joined it back together. This part here is geopolymer, it's not real ancient. It's just cement that they built around the remaining pieces from the capstone or from the bin stone in order to join it together. We can see the red color came out all the way to the surface of the fine limestone. This fine limestone is not local to the area. We can see the inner courses is supposedly extracted from somewhere near in the area. That's the same thing goes for the bent pyramid. And the fine limestone is usually recognized to be brought from the tura limestone, which is very pure calcium carbonate. And as I told you, these parts survived under the rubble.
Some of the casing stones on the Red Pyramid are still perfectly intact, or even joined together, kind of very neatly, almost like polygonal corners on them, like we find here. Good examples. You can see some weathering on them, but yeah, this is pretty much, these are damn good condition actually compared to the Great Pyramid, and it's supposed to be older as well.
Just imagine you trying to encase a structure like that from all sides. It is about 100-meter high, 99 meters. You need to extract a whole mountain and then transfer it and then build it and then finish it. Because as I told you, according to everything we have seen, the stone was built, even the casing stone, on its rough, with its rough surface. So how are you going to finish it? You're going to make scaffolding around this building, or do what? How you gonna flatten it? This, okay, you already built the pyramid and you passed all the challenges. I just need to know, how did you finish the last part? It cannot be finished and then built. And also we find, which were the stone patches. We may find some here, but I will show it for you for sure, like this one over there. See, there is a spot over there. That's called the stone patch. When the stone naturally has a pocket of crystal or something like that, the ancient used to empty it out and create another piece of limestone and patch it in the stone. So all these finishing happened after the casing stone was added. How did they manage to go and finish it all the way from the top to the bottom?
Scaffolding.
We didn't have scaffolding. And also the ram road idea, we had scaffolding but around statues, something small. We didn't have 100 of meters of scaffolding. We had only the ram road, which we found displayed, and the remaining from structures from the New Kingdom. And it doesn't fit. All the theories that talked about a ram road and a pyramid is not really functional, because you need to build a ramp road that is actually 3-4 times bigger than the size of the pyramid itself.
So we just finished our trip to the Red Pyramid here at Dahshur. So the Red Pyramid is just an amazing place. It just fascinates me that it's the third largest pyramid in all of Egypt. It's used to have white limestone casing. It's got 3 remarkable chambers, and you must remember the 2 chambers on the lower level are completely separate to the one on the top level, and there was no steps there. It was like 0 steps, and it was a much smaller entrance than what is there now. They've obviously blown away a lower part of it so you can walk through to the final chamber. And this idea that it's some kind of chemical plant to create ammonia, and then the bent pyramid was used to kind of create a fertilizer, is fascinating to me, because it kind of fits in with the work of John Burke, who suggested that many of these ancient sites were actually for fertility and abundance and like kind of fecundity of the land, used in different ways. And so yeah, so I hope you enjoyed our visit to the Red Pyramid. It's a pretty amazing place. There was even talk of another chamber hidden within it. I know our good friend Matt Simpson, he talked about this in one of his videos on Ancient Architects channel. You can check that out below. But do check out the work of Geoffrey Drumm and the Land of Chem. Again, that's linked below. I think his work is being recognized now by many people, even academics, who are kind of looking at it from a different perspective, rather than just be tombs. The pyramids, they're actually functional, and there's a purpose behind their construction. So thanks for watching, Megalithomaniacs, and we'll see you next time.